Welcome back to our channel. It's been a little while since we've sat down to have a chat.
Yeah.
But if you're new here, I'm Steph.
I'm Katie, this is little Theo. And yeah, in today's video, we thought we would do a little wrap up of the year. Normally, we would do kind of like a highlights of our year. And this year, we felt like maybe we would do a bit more of like an honest sort of wrap up because, in all honesty, 2022 was like a really rough one for us.
Hasn't been our best
year. Yeah, definitely not been our best, potentially our worst. And yeah, we just thought, rather than trying to pretend like, it was a good one, that we would just kind of sit down and chat about kind of the reality of this year because it was a really tough one for us. And yeah, we don't want to have to pretend like it wasn't. So so let's get into it.
So last year around this time, we set some intentions and we both chose a word that we wanted to kind of focus on this year as kind of our goal. And for me, that was self-care. For you, it was balance.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to look back now on our intentions for 2022, especially, our words for the year. I think that I don't think either of us really achieved those as goals.
No.
But I do think that we both learned a lot of lessons about each of those things. So it is really interesting to look back now with the perspective we have of what we sort of intended for this year and how really just nothing went according to plan. And yeah, we learned a lot, and I guess that's valuable.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in hindsight, looking at my word anyway for self-care, I realized how lacking it really was and how important it was, but also we were so busy with other things that, I mean, kind of like always, self-care is pretty much the first thing to go when you're feeling overwhelmed or you feel like you're too busy to do pretty much anything. It seems like an easy one to just say, well, I don't have time for that, but I definitely learned that taking a little bit of time to take care of yourself, especially when you're busy, can really go a long way in just making everything feel a little bit easier. So that's what I learned from this year anyway.
Yeah.
Which I think is valuable, even if it wasn't necessarily the best in terms of achieving that goal.
I think too, you just learned all the different ways of taking care of yourself and what taking care of yourself actually means, because sometimes it isn't just taking time off or taking time for yourself, but it's learning how to set better boundaries and learning how to, protect yourself in different ways. All of those things are ways of taking care of yourself. I feel like that's been a big theme for you this year and something we've talked about a lot and something a lot of lessons you've kind of had to learn. So I think that was a good word for you because it's something that you realize that you needed even more than you thought.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think for me, my word was balance because I think at the end of 2021, we had a really good year, but I was definitely feeling in order to do more and achieve more, I was going to need to find a better balance in my life, a better work-life balance and all of that. And I think, looking back, it's funny almost because this year was the least balanced I've ever felt, probably ever, because we were just under so much stress. We had so much going on.
We took on
really
a lot of
year.
extra
We took on a lot,
things,
and there just was no balance between our work life, our relationship, our home life, my personal life, anything like that. I think getting to that point where it's just so difficult, it just kind of shows you how important having that balance actually is, but also why you're not achieving it, why my life has always felt so unbalanced. I think I finally learned a lot and I'm now in a position to actually be able to achieve that one day. Probably not anytime soon because that's a big goal to have. I think lots of people feel like it's difficult to find balance in their life when they have a lot going on. But I think it's something that I kept coming back to as a big lesson, even if it's something that I didn't necessarily conquer or achieve for the year. It was definitely still a big theme of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So as you probably know, one of the reasons why we were so overwhelmed this past year was because we took on a documentary series project called Queer Vancouver. Basically, we worked on this project for the entire last year and it was a ton of work, a ton of time, a ton of energy, and we really just put everything into it. And things like self-care and balance were the things that really were kind of left aside through the process, because we really felt like we had no time to do basically anything else. So
Yeah.
it was.
I feel like the rest of our life really suffered, and
Yeah.
it was a hard year, like on our personal life. It was a hard year on our marriage. It was a hard year on the rest of our business. It was, yeah, it just really kind of took over, and it's hard looking back at the beginning of the year. I remember like announcing it, and we were so excited, and we, had so much passion for the project, and we're so excited to do it. And at the end of the year now, here we're where we are. It's just, yeah, it was really, really, really tough. And if you follow us on Instagram, you might have seen we announced that we made the difficult decision not to move on with a second season of Queer Vancouver, which is a tough choice to have to make, and there were a lot of factors involved in that. And if you didn't see what we put out about that, we'll leave it in the description below so you can read it here as well. But overall, I feel like we're just kind of ending this year in a place of feeling sort of defeated and struggling with how hard this year was. And yeah, looking back with the intentions that we had and how we kind of set out to do things and how excited we were, it's hard to be ending the year in a low spot, but that's kind of where we are.
We're feeling a little bit disappointed and frankly kind of lost. But that being said, we do want to look back on the past year and look at some of the highlights, because we did have some really nice moments, and we got to go, we got to do some more travel again, which was really nice, and something that we really felt like we had kind of missed out on in the previous years. And talk a little bit about some of those trips and some of those times that were a little bit easier and a little bit more fun.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did obviously have some good times this year. It wasn't all bad. And yeah, it was really nice to dip our toes back into travel a little bit. This was the first time we left Canada, I guess, since the beginning of the pandemic. We went to New York twice. We went down to California, and we went to a couple of different prides. We went to New York Pride. We went to Canada Pride, which was in Winnipeg. We went to Banff Pride.
And of course, Vancouver Pride.
And of course, Vancouver Pride.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, really in the summer when we were kind of done the episodes and before like our promotional push, we did have some more time to sort of travel and explore and feel a little taste of our old life again, which was really nice.
And of course, as you may know, we bought some property on one of the Gulf Islands here in BC. So that was very exciting. We got out there a couple times as well to just kind of walk around and take it all in and try to make some plans, or come up with some ideas on what we want to do with it in the future. So there's definitely some fun stuff up ahead. But yeah.
Yeah, I think in general at this time of year, it's easy to kind of look at everyone's highlights and look at everyone like looking back on all their big moments, and it can be hard when you didn't have a great year and when you're struggling. And I'm definitely feeling like that comparison, and even just comparing our year to our past years. And like, yeah, it's hard. This has been a really challenging one, and I'm trying to just, take the lessons away that we learned and figure out how we can have a better year next year, because I think we did learn a lot and there was a lot to take away from everything that happened, from all of this, and just from all the things that we kind of struggled through this year. And just know that like it's okay to have a hard time. It's okay to not have a great year. It's okay to not have your best year. And I always like the feeling of a new year, because it does feel a bit like a fresh start, and I feel like we really need that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think these past few years have been hard on a lot of people, and if that's the way you're feeling, then please know that you're not alone. Like you said, even seeing everybody's highlights, I think that there's a lot of reality mixed in with those highlights that people often don't get to see. So it's a good reminder for yourself and for everyone that reality and life is not always as it appears online, or even when you're catching up with people in person. So it's important to be real, and to recognize that, and to know that's where pretty much everybody's at. So
yeah, and honestly, I think that's something we could get better at, is just sharing a bit more of the highs and the lows of our life, because I think we always try really hard to make sure that all of our content that we put out online is really positive and really joyful, because we really always do want to show like queer joy and queer love and all of that. But of course, we go through hard times just like anyone does. And this year especially was challenging, and I feel like what made it more challenging was feeling like we couldn't talk about it or share about it, or this feeling like we have to be put together and perfect all the time, which is only something we're doing to ourselves. I don't think anyone is expecting us to be perfect, other than probably me. And so I think that's something I would definitely like to get better at, is just learning how to be more vulnerable and share a bit more of our real life. And it can be hard to share it like in the moment while you're going through it, but at least after the fact to be able to share a bit, of the struggle, because everyone struggles and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's something we'd like to get better at for the new year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to show that, like, there can be queer joy and there can be hard moments simultaneously, and we can get through things that are difficult and kind of prevail on the other side. And that is literally what life is about, is facing adversity and growing from it and learning from it, and coming out on the other side. And I think that is something that's really important to see and also experience. And as hard as tough moments can be, I always try to look for the lesson in it all, and try to make sure that I'm learning and growing from it. So
yeah, I think that's a great point. I think this year for us, like, some of our best and biggest moments happened alongside some of our toughest times. And that is just how it is sometimes, right? Like, the good things happen alongside the bad, the joy happens alongside the pain, and that just is life, isn't it? So not to sugarcoat it, that's just the year we had. So maybe we'll leave it there. And I think we have a lot to share about kind of the new year and what's going on, and a bit more of like a life update, but we'll save that for next time, and kind of chat about what we're thinking for 2023. We're still trying to figure it out, but what our intentions are, what our words for the year are going to be, and how we're just going to move forward with a bit of a fresh start in January. So all that being said, we hope that everyone watching had a nice holiday season, even if you just got through it and that was the best you could do. I can totally relate to that. And we hope that everyone is just like, winding down for the new year, taking some time to reflect on the year that, everyone's had, and all of that, and getting ready for 2023.
Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe, because we will be putting out a lot more content this year. We're going to have a bit more time on our hands, so we want to make sure we are putting out lots of content for you. And hopefully you had a great holiday, and Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. We will see you in January. Bye.
Bye.